Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to show you how you can quickly update your game server that is copied locally. This is because the game recently had an update on Steam and the server file needs to be updated as well. Now the problem with the local installation is if you go ahead and copy all the new files from the game directory and paste them here, it's going to overwrite our server configuration. It's also going to overwrite our gameinfo.gi file, which contains the MetaMod installation as well as Counter-Strike Sharp plugin. So what we want to do is update everything else but keep those files intact. So the easiest way to do that is use Git by creating a local Git repository. So you need to have Git installed. If you don't have Git installed, just simply go to gitscm.com and from here you can download the Git for Windows. So once you have done that, you can open this folder in VS Code or even in the terminal. I prefer to do it in VS Code. So once you do that, then you have to open the terminal. If you don't have it open, you can go to terminal and new terminal. In here you have to type in the command git init. This will create an empty Git repository in this directory. Now by default, Git is going to track all the files. You can see it shows 5,000 plus files, but we don't want to keep track of all the game files because they are heavy and it's gonna basically fill up your entire storage. So what we have to do is create a new GitIgnore file. The GitIgnore file basically tells Git which files to ignore, and it can also be used to tell Git which files to actually include instead of ignoring them. So the first thing we have to do is basically ignore all the files. We can add comments in this using hashtag. So ignore everything, and we can do that by typing in the asterisk. And after that, we have to also exclude the GitIgnore itself in case we want to push this to the GitHub, repository or somewhere. But if you want to keep it local, then it doesn't really matter. But I'm gonna include the GitIgnore file as well. So to do that, you have to type in the exclamation mark and then type in the name of the file, which is GitIgnore. Now it's gonna ignore everything else and only keep the GitIgnore file. You can see we have one file in here that shows in the changes, and we also have to do the same for the gameinfo.gi file. But the problem is we can't really just type its name because the parent directory of the GitIgnore of the gameinfo.gi file is ignored. So if you just type in its name, it's not going to be added into the Git repository. So the way we do that is first by including the actual directory, which is the game directory, and we also have to give it the /, and then we have to exclude the actual files of this directory. So we type in again the game and then asterisk. So this is basically gonna exclude all the files inside the game folder, but it is gonna include the game folder itself. So the next thing we have to do is now include the CSGO folder, because this is where we have our gameinfo.gi file. So next step would be to include game CSGO. Now this is gonna add the CSGO file back into the Git repository for history taking, but we also don't want to keep track of all the files inside this folder because there are so many other folders. So again, we have to simply type game CSGO and asterisk. This is basically gonna ignore all the files inside this directory. Now again, what we have to do is simply type in asterisk game CSGO gameinfo.gi, and this should add the gameinfo.gi file into the Git history. So this file is going to be tracked from now on. Whatever changes we make into this, it's going to be tracked into the Git history. Next, if you remember, we also have our custom configuration, which is in the CFG file, and it's server.cfg. I also want to keep track of this because we have defined our custom rules for the server in this file, and we don't want it to be overwritten by the new game files. So to do that, it's also again same trick. You basically ignore the game CSGO CFG directory, and then we include actually we have to include the cfg directory, and then we have to exclude all the files inside the cfg directory, and then we have to include only cscope cfg server.cfg. Now this is basically gonna include the cfg folder. It's gonna exclude all the files inside the folder itself, and then it's gonna include the server.cfg file. So if the directory names are correct, we should be able to see 3 files in here. Yep, as you can see, we have server.cfg, we have giminfo.gi, and GitIgnore. Now these are the only important files that we need to keep track of. We can basically replace everything else. The plugin files that we have in the add-ons, they're not going to be replaced, because the original game files, they do not come with these files, so they're not going to be replaced anyway, so we can just leave them as is. Now after doing this gitignore file, all you have to do is simply type in git add dot, and then you have to type in git commit -m, give it a message before update. And now as you can see, we have committed these files into the local repository. Now what you can do is go to the game files, manage, browse local files, select everything, and then go back to the server, and now you can just hit paste. Now you have to wait for this to finish. It's 80 GB for me. For new installation it should be around 30 GB, but I have custom maps and everything, so okay, once the files have been copied, now this is very important. You have to go to the VS Code again. Now on the sidebar, you should see the changes mentioned in here. So if you click on these both files, you will see that there are the lines that we had added have been removed. There are no other changes. So what we can do is we can safely go ahead and click on this button here that says discard changes. What this does is basically restores the file to its original state with this line added. So I'm going to click on this one, click on discard file. Now you can see we have our line added for MetaMod again. So now our MetaMod plugin will continue to work. Same for the server.cfg. You can see we have basically this is set to empty, so we have to just click on discard for this one again, and that's it. Now one thing I do remember is we had also removed the other cfg files, not in this one but in this one, so we have to remove these again. What we could do is maybe add these to the yeah, let me actually go ahead and add these into the GitIgnore, because I want to be easily able to delete these files from here. So what we can do is basically add a new line here, gam csco cfg everything.cfg. So this should add all the cfg files. Now in here we can basically go ahead and click on discard. Okay, now as you can see we have we should have all these removed. Actually we're in the different folder. We have to go into csco, we have to go into gam csco cfg. So you can see we now have only the server.cfg file that we want, and some other cfg file that's required, but gam I don't know. But yeah, so what we can do is just after update we can just commit these changes again, and now we should have a working server again with the latest gam version. So we can just go ahead and close this. I'm going to go to this one and click on start, just to make sure that the gam works. I'm also going to start the gam. Let me see if I can connect to it. Okay, so our server is working, and we should have our same configuration. You can see we have bunny hop, we have the AVP and legal. So everything works just like before, except we're not seeing the server on the community servers, probably because it takes some time or maybe some other issue. Okay, for some reason my IP address has just been reset, but I do remember there was a Windows update, so it could be related. So yeah, I will fix this later, and this is basically how you can easily update your local game server. In the next few videos, I will show you how you can host workshop maps. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one.